strands and chakras, 4, 5, and 6. These are the subharmonics in there. So as you integrate, as you first activate all first 3 strands, and you bring your full medical body into life and your full telluric shield, you will be running 36 frequency subharmonics. Okay? This will be the current that you're running. When you get up to soul integration with full 6-strand activation, you'll be running 72 frequency subharmonics. When you get up to activation of the vedic of the body and the toric shield, which is the oversoul level, dimensions 7, 8, 9, strands 7, 8, 9, you'll be up to 108 frequency subharmonics. To see how as you build, you're building the ability to hold more current, to hold in the body and transmit from the body more current. When you get up to moving into becoming an avatar, integrated individual, which is your Maharupa body, and activation of your full Mahara shield, which we're beginning the process of by running the techniques we'll be running. As the strands 10, 11, and 12, you'll move from 120 frequency subharmonics up to 144. So as an avatar being, you would be running 144 frequency subharmonics, which is 12 dimensions of frequency. All right, so it just helps to understand the stack. This is good to understand, too, that dimensions have these frequency subharmonics. Because right now there's several programs, one being run by Draconian people and one being run by Anunnaki people, that get your mind all twisted because they're telling you about, oh, I'm a 500-strand being and I run 2,000 dimensions. They count pieces of the subharmonics as full dimensions in these programs. They'll tell you that there's, oh, I'm on dimension 540 now. But when you break it down, they're taking increments of the frequency subharmonics and they're calling them full dimensions. These are the same ones. They're telling you that, oh, you're 12-strand activated now, when what you really are is strand 4.2 activated, and they're calling that 12-dimensional activation. It's a deception program. So if you know the structure, you'll be aware of the programs that tell you that there's infinite numbers of dimensions, and I'm on dimension 6,000 right now. Realize they're taking the core template of the way the time matrix is structured, and they're playing games with the numbers. Just like you can plug figures if you're an accountant, and you can make things look a certain way, even though they're not. These scams are being run. If you know what the basic structure is, which plugs into the rest of everything, your daughter, your DNA, all of the parts, that's all you really need to know. So just be aware that with the frequency subharmonics, that means you have 12 sub-frequency bands in each dimensional band plus everything below it. And if you know that structure, and somebody says to you, well, my DNA is more activated than you, I'm up to like 400-strand activation, and I'm carrying 2,000 frequencies right now. You come up with, yeah, right. You won't buy it, because what it is a distortion on the primal template. This gets into what is right. Is there an order, or isn't there? It's kind of like you can look at the color blue and call it orange, but it's still blue. This is what's happening. They'll say, well, our system teaches this, or ours teaches that. Isn't there somewhere simply the way it is? You know what I mean? Like, is blue blue, or can blue be purple or green or orange or black, depending on what you want to make it? Now you can do that with the color blue, but it's not going to change the fact of its nature. It will still be blue, even if you refuse to see it as blue. There is a primal structure and order to the time matrix and to the universe. This is what we're trying to show here. This is what, in fact, the Melchizedek cloister is about. It's restoring. The cloister races have always held the original imprint and would bring back that information whenever it started to get such deviation that it was going to lose its original integrity. We would always bring back the core template that everything else fits into. It doesn't negate anybody's system. It shows you where it fits. So it's good to know that there is a blue is blue. There is a way that is really the way it works. Scientists would do a lot from learning that too, because they tend to investigate everything and figure it out and find it out. Their theories change as fast as the research does. Well, 2 years ago we thought it was this, and that's absolutely certain. Well, now we know this, and that really, well, it isn't that way anymore. Now it's absolutely this way. They present as absolute truth very often things that are not absolute at all. So at least I'm wondering, is it all subjective? Where you can simply say, well, it's any way we want it to be, that there is no absolute anything. That would mean we were in a universe of chaos. There would be no order or structure. There would be no underpinning of a template. It would just be random energy interacting with itself, creating things by happenstance. There is an absolute order to things. This is part of the physics of that order. So I found it very comforting to bring that back to a conscious level. There is a right and a wrong, is what this implies. Not a wrong in the sense of bad, that kind of stuff. There is a way that supports the natural order, and there is a way that erodes the natural order. And if you want to look at value judgments as far as good versus evil, or what's good for you, what's not good for you, there is no neutral ground. There is either something that supports your divine blueprint and that of the universe, or it does the opposite, because nothing is static in this universe. It doesn't just hold still and say, excuse me, I'm not going to be part of the game, my energy is not going to influence anything. Everything influences. Every choice you make in your daily life will either bring you up in frequency or down in frequency. It will either help you to expand and become more, or contract. So it's really neat when you start to realize there is an absolute behind things. That doesn't mean there's somebody there forcing their truth down to you, down your throat. You're entitled to look at the universe and the world any way you choose. But if you choose to look at it through the eyes of mastery, you will look for its constants, for the thing that is constant about it, for the absolute that holds it all together. And that's what we try to do with Kathara healing and all the paradigms that we bring through regarding science or spirituality. We try to show that there is an original divine order that everything else fits into. And you have a choice at any moment to either support it or not support it. That's why we don't teach any of the hatred teachings. We don't teach about, all their bad people, hate them, and stay away from them. We don't teach any of that. It simply does what a person or a being is doing, support divine order that allows the structure to perpetuate and continue, that allows existence to perpetuate and continue, or is it eroding that order? And what's nice about it, there's a cosmic trump card. Divine order is wonderful. Divine order is a structure that is so expansive and built so much on love that it completely allows its opposite to exist. It absolutely allows for divine chaos and divine disorder. It's so good that it allows for evil because it will not repress or limit the creations of sorts that are expressing. However, there is a trump card. If what we consider negativity or the chaos force begins to erode the entire structure of a time matrix, where it's structure that supports the existence of both good and evil, because you can't have light without dark. They go together in a polarized system. Divine order will allow, to a degree, the expression of its opposite aspect. But if that opposite aspect begins to dominate and take control, threatening the whole framework that allows both to exist, therefore it's not good for anybody at all, including the ones who would want to use it in use divine power in a negative way. It will override it and it will reset, just like we can reset our bodies with our Mahara shield. The universe resets itself sometimes. And who makes that decision is the creator of the universe, is Source, which is the part that each one of us are a part of that Source. But we're in the process on a planetary level of resetting the Mahara shield. We're going to do it on a personal level here. And each person that does this, and every time you do it, it will assist the planetary grids in that area that you're doing it to hold a part of its own D12 Mahara template. We're on cosmic reset here because there are things that have gone so far out of balance in our universe that it's not just on Earth. It has to do with the middle stargates as well as this area. If intervention from the ascended master groups, the ones that have not come into incarnation, that are in the primal sound fields, if intervention hadn't been given, this time matrix would have been turned in on itself and then it would have imploded. Which means all the consciousness in it, you never go away from God, you're always in God, because it's all taking place in God. There's a difference though. You can be space dust and not be aware of your relationship to the whole because you have no ability to hold memory. Or you can be an evolved form that has the ability to hold memory and hold your cognition of being at one with Source. The latter is much preferable. So there's cosmic reset going on here, and we're part of it. It's going to happen whether we want to be part of it or not. You can't step off this universe, excuse me, I don't want to play. We're all involved in it. If we work with the techniques that begin with the Kathara work, we're preparing ourselves to handle what that's going to mean. Because on a planetary level, there's going to be frequencies that run through the planetary grids. Now, just because you want to, it's kind of funny, with the Anunnaki teachings, it's like, you have the power to will away anything that you don't want in your reality. They fail to tell you about critical mass and about the fact that you're part of a world where there's lots of other people who have intentions as well, and you're part of a planetary system that has a say in it too. There are things that are going to happen here that you might not want to participate in, but you happen to be here, and you're going to be affected by them. Now, some of them may not go bad at all, But even if things went perfectly, beautifully smooth during our stellar activation cycle, there's one thing guaranteed. Everybody's DNA is going to activate. Okay? Whether or not you choose to do it consciously, or you choose to not want to know anything about it, you are going to go through DNA activation. Because when the frequency comes to the planetary grids, it's going to trigger the activation of your chakra system and of your Kathara, your template. And that's going to trigger your DNA. Now, if your DNA happens to have a lot of distortions in it, because the planetary grids themselves have a lot of distortions, those distortions are going to build and block frequency in the body. This is where disease and things like that will be accelerated. What we're working with our restarting or resetting our Mahara shield is clearing as rapidly as possible any of those distortions to make way for what's coming out through the planetary grids. It's really helpful to realize that when we get into absolutes and non-absolutes and get into free will, how much free will do we have? We know we have free will. Or do we? Maybe we do. We have free will. But within that context, when we incarnate into a reality system, none of us are here by accident. We might not remember why we came. We may not remember that we're supposed to be here because we came to do something. It may seem like somebody imposed that on us, but they didn't. And now once you're here, and not quite remembering why you came, it comes down to an issue of free will. Well, if I don't want to be part of the cosmic restart, if I don't want to be part of the Christos mission, don't I have the right in my free will to not be a part of it? I mean, how can they make something happen on the planet if I don't want it to happen, is what you're saying. It comes down to, you're here, you chose to come or you wouldn't be here. You can choose to leave on the soul level, and if that happens, you will. But if you're meant to be here while these changes are going down, it is very much easier on yourself to accept the fact that you're part of a larger drama. You're part of a team of people. It's more than just you. And you may not want to have to deal with activations in DNA and planetary ascension cycles and all that kind of stuff. But some part of you obviously did, is to put you here. A lot of people fight this process, and they say, oh, I'm not going to believe that. My DNA doesn't have to activate or anything like that, unless I want it to. 6 months later, I've been really sick, it's like I've been in pains here, I can go to the hospital for this. What's wrong with me? My doctor can't figure it out. Do you remember that DNA thing? You're dead. If we know about it, we can, first of all, help ourselves with running a technique that will make it easier. But we can also try to help the other people who are going to get stuck in that cycle where they don't want to hear about any metaphysical stuff, but they're going to find that their body is reacting to the planetary grids. You're going to know that, but they're not going to know what their body is reacting to. They're going to run for anything. They'll give them a quick fix. Sometimes quick fixes will take the, ease them through to the next phase. What the guardian groups are hoping for is that enough of us become aware, and even if we never see each other again in the physical, enough of us become aware of these processes and the fact that we can connect with each other as a field of energy in the astral level that can reach out frequency to help buffer the other people on this planet whose consciousness isn't ready to learn about this on a weak level, but who need help. We can do these kind of things too. But the first place to start is realizing what we're getting ourselves into. It was interesting, somebody brought to my attention that the reason why so many people lost interest in the Kathara program was they found that they started to get headaches. Oh, it must be a bad program. Excuse me. You're activating DNA. You're releasing cranial sacral seals. You think it's all going to be hunky-dory? I try to explain to people, you're making changes in your body. We have been a mutated species for 25,000 years. You think that something's going to wave a wand and it fixes itself? You're going to notice changes. This stuff shows you it's working. If you start to get, it's not fun. There's ways, coping skills. That was one of the first workshops we did, was coping skills for the coming changes. Because DNA is going to activate it, whether you want it to or not. You can either help it to activate so it does it more gently, or you can watch it, make havoc in your system. But realize something. Whether or not you use Kathara, you're going to move through these things. Kathara will give you tools to help be a part of the directing influence of how it will affect you. But I wouldn't want you to have the misconception that I'm going to do Kathara and everything's going to be fixed instantly and perfectly, and I got a headache and I think it might be its fault. This is the blame mentality. You're not taking any responsibility, looking at what's happening with your body and what you're getting involved in, and you're going to point fingers. I don't think you guys are going to do that. But some groups have done that. And it's a mind trap. And it's also something that certainly groups out there would love for you to believe in. So you didn't use Kathara, because as long as you're using Kathara and you're bringing D12 frequency in, you cannot be permanently astral field infiltrated. If anything tries to mess with you from D4 or the high frequencies, it can't get through on the higher seal. So there's a lot of, let's say, inspiration coming from the D4 and higher realms of what we call fallen angelics. They want to make sure people don't use these programs, because these programs are the number one biggest threat to their agenda. Their agenda is a violation of agenda that violates your free will and violates this planet's free will. If you use these techniques, you are providing protection. So they'll do everything in their power to convince you that these aren't the techniques to use. You can make your own decisions. But I want you to be aware that you're not also going to go through a thing and all of a sudden your whole being falls apart, because you're running. No, it isn't going to do that either. When you're activating rapidly, and because of the little thing that came through spontaneously last evening, where they were talking to people in Ireland here, who was our first time meeting you, that the Yanni explained your grids are going to be activated in Ireland within the next 3 weeks. The first people to feel an activation in the grids will be indigos, because they have more of the subharmonics and frequencies plugged in, so they will be first affected by it. You need to know it. If you're working with Kathara and you start getting weird effects, you can stop using Kathara and watch the weird effects continue, okay? Because it's not the Kathara program that's creating it. There's another instance of things like this happening. I remember when one person, it was on an Egypt trip, the person went into an area, like it wasn't a pyramid, but it was one of the other sites to go in. There was a real dark energy presence in there. She was convinced it was an absolutely horrid dark energy presence. And we went in, and there was no presence there. And she'd run her heart seal. It was the first time she'd ever run her heart seal. What she didn't know, and I found out later trying to figure out what the heck, the hit her, it was, because there was something bothering her. She felt, I'm running my heart seal, I should be safe now, what is it, what's wrong? Turns out when she was about 6, she had astral field possession. It didn't go all the way in, it didn't take over her body, it just hung out with her. It wasn't a big nasty. It was just a rider. We have a lot of these that we don't even know are there. When they show themselves is when we start to raise the frequency of the body beyond their capacity to hold on. That's when they start to pop up. Where you literally, if you go to a psychologist with the symptoms of something like that, they will call you schizophrenic. They will say you're crazy. And they'll try to give you drugs that they treat schizophrenics or people with bipolar disorders with. Sometimes it's not bipolar disorder. Sometimes somebody's using you as a mobile bus. And you need to be aware that this is how things work when you get into the multidimensional spectrum. We sit down and we think that none of this stuff is real. Meanwhile, there's all sorts of things hanging out in the field and happening. You can't play games. One of the things that astral beings are about the least of your threat. It's the ones that are from the higher frequencies that have negative agendas, like big, dark avatars from D11. Oh, that could be a really weird one. But the ones from D4 like to do stuff like, a lot of times are people that crossed over, maybe in the last 500 years. They haven't figured out how to go higher, and they're still attached to the earth, and they remember you from when you were incarnate then, and you're the closest thing they have to a friend, is to be attached. Now, other times it may be something directly trying to manipulate you because you have a high gene code. And if you get that gene code running in reverse sequence, where your DNA templates are running the currents in reverse, you can be a very powerful force to mess with the grids. You need to be aware, if you're going to be an effective healer of any kind, that it wasn't old wives' tales that all the legends from the past came up from, as far as things that could possess people. Possession is a reality. We call it field infiltration. All right, that's a technical word for it. It's not something you have to be afraid of, and it won't happen to you if you run your D12 current. The reason it has happened in our whole history is full of this. Does anybody remember their ancient Egypt days at all? Because I know most people, okay. Do you ever remember some of the things we went through when people joined an initiate school? The first thing you had to do was clean them up. And they went through certain energy processes where they'd be exposed to frequencies that would raise the currents in the body, and anything that had attached itself would come screaming out. Some of them were nasty. It was like you had 4 or 5 people standing around, the body of the person who was getting cleared would lay down, and you start to beam the frequency out. You gently bring the frequency out, and you start to see little things fly out of the field, right? Like little shadow forms. And if there's something nasty in there, like something from a highlight of the 11th avatar, you would start to see the body breathe. It would start to try to take over the personality, and that's where you had to be a master, the possessor, which meant when it started to show itself, it means it was coming up out of the demon template where it's holding on before, that's when you need to pull. And the person has to have enough fortitude to push. Because you literally have to get that energy quantity out of your energy quantity if you're going to have a clear view. These things were real back then, and they are real today. But we have been totally mind-wiped. Where we don't even think possession's real. It's just no wives' tale of people who are as evolved as we are with our scientific understanding. Oh, the arrogance sometimes that science teaches us. It's not the scientists themselves. It's what inspired them to go in the direction that they belong. If you were a thing, like the 11th avatar, and you had your sights set on some nice little indigo bodies down there, and had a lot of potential for messing with the earth roots, the last thing in the world you wanted to believe or know was that we even existed. Because then all you had to do was sink your energy field down into theirs, and manipulate it any way you wanted to, and they think it was them. They wouldn't know the difference between themselves and something coming in unless they were trained in energy sensing, unless they knew themselves and their parts well enough to feel the disharmonic. This is why our culture has been taught progressively since before medieval times to make sure the feminine senses were repressed, to make absolutely sure psychics were that stakes were never possible, right? To make sure this knowledge was not in the religions, it used to be in the religious teachings until they became control dogmas. Why? Have we evolved into a science that is soulless? This is the only thing that's real is what's out here. Who might benefit from this? Who might be giving the inspiration for the direction of the evolution that's taking here? You can answer that one for yourself. When you start to get your perceptions turned on, when you start to become interdimensional, when you start to pop out of your... Did anybody do astral projection here? Oh boy, you have something to look forward to. Astral projection is where you stay awake, or you put your body to sleep, and you move an image of your body, or you can just make it all light out, and you keep your consciousness, your stream of consciousness, and you can go anywhere. One of the biggest amazing things about astral projection is when it first happens, you kind of bounce yourself out of your body, usually in a very disorganized kind of way. You find yourself in your body, your body that's like a ghost, except it responds to thoughts so fast. If you think you want to go over there and you think it too hard, you go flying through the wall. I used to, when I was learning astral body technique, and I didn't realize, my soul was trading me. This would just happen spontaneously. I found myself in my astral body hanging like a bat upside down on the ceiling, and I couldn't figure out how to get my head up and my feet down. It gives you a whole new vehicle to use, and it's very, very real. You'll also find it to be very useful. It used to happen when I was very young, spontaneously in class, and then got shut down because the young self that I was would be able to go up like a second grade behind the teacher. She found that I could sit there, read a book, and I could project my astral self out the window, go play, like out in the yard and stuff, and still keep an eye on the teacher was coming by, so I'd be totally focused back here. But then I started doing things like going up behind the teacher's desk and looking over her shoulder and looking at her grade book, and I could read them. That's when my higher part said, all right, not now. And it shut the whole thing down because I was abusing the privilege. And didn't realize it. It was just like, oh, I can do this. Let me. You have a world to discover. You have many worlds to discover. Wow, I thought that people would have probably been doing that. That's real interesting. Because it's exciting to talk to a group of people who aren't fluent yet in what it means to get out of body. This is when it all starts to get real to you. Yeah.
Can you protect yourself with a heart shield in the astral plane?
Yes, and in fact, if you start finding yourself doing outer bodies, do your heart shield immediately, even if it's just taking the Hierophant symbol. In fact, here's a quick, this is quick, before we learn how to do this one. Quick protection. Imagine a 144 pointed ball with spikes. It's a 144 pointed star. You'll never be able to see clearly all those 144 points, but just intended there, kind of like a ball with all these spines sticking out on it. That's a very specific and very powerful mathematical coding of the Hierophant symbol. Inhale to gain momentum. Exhale hard, push it down to Earth's core. And this is kind of like your click and drag concept that you use with the mouse. On the next inhale, you're going to pull and you're going to feel it. Pull the energy from your heart shield, that thing that sticks out and it's activated around your feet. And go. And lock it on to chakra 14. That will bring up a temporary, immediate Mahara seal. Now, it won't last unless you're working with the techniques that help the body to hold that frequency. But if you're in danger, or if you find yourself spontaneously in the astral because your soul consciousness decided it was time, this is really, who's controlling this? It was you. And have your D5 consciousness saying, okay, it's time to get out into the astral now. Time to get them out to see what's out there. You need to become responsible. There's a lot of people that are doing astral projection and they have no idea they need to protect themselves. And that's when they get in big trouble. You can actually kill your body by accident. Even if nothing messed with you. You get out of body and you stay out too long. It's the same thing that happens as in the death transition. In the death transition, as your consciousness leaves the body starts to drop in frequency, and your consciousness goes up in frequency. If you look at it like a cord of energy, if that range of frequency gets too long, if you're stretching that rubber band of cord too much, it snaps. The frequency of the body drops fast, and the frequency of the consciousness goes up in frequency, and the connection is severed. And at that point, all the crystal seals in the body shut down. The consciousness is pulled out of it, and you can't get back into the body. That's what happens in death. Now, if you're in the astral experience, and I fight this sometimes, if you stay out too long, you're having a good time, it's I don't want to go back yet, or something did that the first time, I don't want to go back yet. Your body will reel you back in, as if you're on a fishing line. And some people try to fight it. You can fight it, but if you fight it strong enough and win, you may accidentally kill your body and not have something to get back into. There's a reason the body draws it back. It means its frequency is going down too long. Did you ever wake? This is another cue to see if you've ever done astral projection or not, just you just don't remember it yet. Did you ever wake up in the morning or after a nap where you feel like you have rigor mortis, where everything is just major stiff and it feels kind of cold in the body? And usually, what accompanies this is you're really hungry. Your body just needs to put something in it to bring it back into focus. That usually means you're projecting in the dream state. When you wake up in that state, where you really feel like the dead rising again, it's not just the usual cloudiness because of the natural chemicals that are produced, but because you were out of body, disassociated for a long period of time, it will literally create a feeling of rigor mortis in the body. And if that goes too far, you don't have a body to come back. So it's interesting to know that astral projection is one of the small things you have to look forward to. Astral projection is just going into D4. What's even more fun is realizing you don't need to carry an image of your body if you don't want to. You can ball yourself up into a ball of light, and you can go into any of the dimensions that your consciousness holds the frequency of. If you have a DNA template that's activated to strand 6, you will carry the 6th-dimensional frequency in your consciousness, which means you can have a 6th-dimensional ball of energy to play in D6 with. So it's all connected. It is also connected to death. I want to talk about this a little bit. When a person dies, if they have been on 3rd strand activation only and have not pulled higher dimensional frequency, they will have to come back. Their consciousness leaves the body and stays in density 1. They'll stay in the frequency band where it is. Without help, it will not be able to make the transition. Now, normally, even if we were going to die, we would have more strand activity where we could get out of the incarnational cycles here. This race, because of what's been done to the DNA, keeping it at a 3rd strand activation level, has been cycling here, stuck here. All its little simultaneous time vectors, not able to get out. When we start activating the strands, the natural process comes back. And even if we don't have enough time to get all of our strands activated to where we can fully ascend and take our body with us, if we end up faced at whatever point in time with the death transition, there's ways to die hard and there's ways to die easy. First of all, forget fear. You're just going back to your more pure form anyway, if you were going to drop the body. Second of all, you turn yourself into a ball of light. Pull yourself in to your heart chakra, and then push yourself up, out your crown chakra. Now this is your 7th chakra, right? Where do you want to go? Do you want to go to D3? Do you want to go to D4? If you have the strand activity, if you get your strands activated, you can choose where you want to go. You can choose not to get stuck in incarnational cycles. So these are some of the things that as we begin to work with Mahara frequency, we are bringing the potentials of choices regarding these things back to us. Once upon a time, we didn't die our bodies at all. We just took them with us, we manifested them, and we manifested. When the planetary grids went down to a point where we couldn't do that anymore, we still had a choice. If we didn't want to be here anymore, we simply, decided, well, as a soul, I'm here, and I finished what I want to do. We didn't do suicide. Nobody had to do suicide. You simply left. You pull yourself from a ball of energy and move out of the body very gently. And usually You lay the body down someplace nice and, happy. I mean, they were the things that we attribute to some god in the sky someplace or some other higher power than ourselves. These are things that our own consciousness was meant to understand, not be afraid of, and simply realize the way to move through. Now, we're going to go back from death and back into life and deal with. We're going to deal with the heart shield. We can go to I'm going to see if there's anything else you need on this one. We're going to do technique 2, which starts on page 142. Let's see if anything before that. 132. Yeah, we don't really have to put that here, but the graph that goes with it, though, is on page... The shorthand is on 135, actually. 136 is the graph.
How long ago was it that you were able to do that, to take our bodies out of the house?
Okay, full ascension without assistance. The groups have been down on what's called a 10-code pulse since 208,216 BC. So since then, we were not able to, without assistance from higher levels, to stimulate and hold the frequency field. We couldn't fully work, but we had a lot more range than we do right now. The grids have been totally decimated since that point, where they're working on like 1/3 capacity. So it's been a lot worse than it was originally, even when the grids originally went down. For years, people have been able to get out of here by assistance from your own selves that exist in different bodies in density 2. All right? Remember, we're simultaneously incarnate. All right? We talked about that yesterday. Time is simultaneous in nature, which means that we each come in, because we're one biggie, we each come in 1,728 different pieces. That's the Christos pattern, the 1,728 selves that come into manifestation to get into manifestation at all. That's how you as an avatar gets into manifestation. What we can do is when we're stuck down here, that means the rest of our cells in the higher time cycles are stuck. What's been happening with ascension for a long time since the grids have been down here is the part of yourself that's incarnate in the time vectors that go with density 2 or density 3 have been assisting in transmitting frequency down to us here and sustaining frequency bridges in the DNA just for the transition period. And literally, when the consciousness is going to leave the body of ascension, you can ascend in 2 ways. You can take your consciousness with you, or you can leave it behind and just take your consciousness. Most people in the last 10,000 years haven't even had the option of taking the body at all. They've taken the consciousness and kind of considered themselves alive. Because right now, our gates have been controlled. When I talk about gates, the ascension gates, the star gates. Gate 4, the solar gate, has been controlled by Anunnaki since 25,500 BC. That means if they didn't like you and you weren't running their agenda, they wouldn't let you through. That means your soul's up there trying to help you, get you integrated. You're stuck down here, repeatedly having to go into another body pattern down here or float around as a ghost until somebody opens the gates. It's been a nightmare what's going on here in the astral. And now we're in a situation where we don't even remember any of it. But,
Were you done with that sentence?
That's all right.
I can't keep so fast. So, in listening to you speak about astral projection, it sounded like it's a positive thing to do. And I've always been cautioned because I think I was trained that about 25, 30 years ago and did some of it. And maybe somewhere they got into the glamour of it. So I've just been cautioned and cautioned others to be careful about that and not to do it because of the glamour or potentiality. And
glamour potentiality in what context? You trust yourself.
To misuse it, that
That's
it's also dangerous out there too.
That we need to know.
Yeah.
Okay, it is dangerous out there. But Christ's beings go where angels fear to tread.
So can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So for many years I've been on one of my jobs, one of the things that I do in different capacities is I go out with dying people and help them go through the bardos and go to other dimensions to the highest or help them get it out.
Yeah, the greeting committee.
Dying people, even groups of dying people find me and I go with, lady died, came to me as she died, I'm out with her, those kinds of things. Is that astral projection or?
Yeah, it's a part of it. Yeah, that's actually your dimensional guide service. It's one of the first levels of serious contract training digital gift. Okay, once you get out from the astral body, where the consciousness knows how to do that, you may find yourself in very strange scenarios. I remember my first training mission like that. I had a guy come and say, okay, now you've been out of your body a lot of times. You still don't do it at will. You know, at the time I wasn't able to get out, it just happened because my higher consciousness was, triggering it to happen to train me. And I said, this time, we have a job, and it's important. This person's crossing over. This person's a Christian. It's extremely important to him to sit at the right hand of Jesus. Jesus was his hero. So, we're staging a drama getting through.
And they need reference points.
I got to play an angel. They said, you're in the choir over here. It was not a high-ranking position. Watch and learn and sing. Wings? Yes, wings. And we take on an image of an angel with wings with a white gown. And I watched in amazement as this group of guys got together and they created this thing. There was the table. Jesus was sitting in the middle of the table. The table had fine fruits and wine and things on it. There were friends and family at the table. And I'm thinking, they really do this, don't they? Oh my goodness. Who's the stage director here? When you start to get D4 functional, which means you have the ability to take your consciousness back and forth through, you may find yourself on some interesting assignments where you get your training.
I call it empathy, when you find out what they're really needing in order to move to the next place. Find that for them or give them something about that there so they can feel safe or whatever. So that's a form of astral projection?
Yes, it is. You know it's a form of astral projection? When you create an image of yourself and put it anywhere. Imagination. When you create with imagination, you are creating thought forms in the astral level.
That's why the heart shield is so important.
Yes. Yes.
Is seeing glimpses of the future while conscious also a form of astral projection?
Yeah, actually it is. It's a form of expansion, actually, where you're a part of you. It can also be a form of tapping into you up there. Yeah. Usually you'll get information from the future that you're in. You have a self that's incarnate in that vector, and you're starting to see through its eyes, and you get this recognition. So it's kind of like astral projection, but you're not exactly taking your body out and moving it somewhere, though you can. You can pick up on futures that way. But most often, especially if it's people that happen spontaneously to, they're not going out and looking for it. It's coming through the DNA template because they're hitting the same vibrational frequency ranges as expressions of their self that are in those time vectors. It's also very difficult to tell if it's a probability that's going to happen or one that's not going to happen. That's almost impossible to tell if it changes from a day-to-day basis. All right, so as far as recognition goes, we're going to get onto the mark soon in about 2 seconds. You want to do that?
Then it's not a spiritual arrogance to feel that confident when you get those knowings of that such and such is for real, such and such is going to happen. I'm talking about, I get these events or feelings or knowings.
Right.
And sometimes I sound like I'm pontificating when I make these statements, and yet I know that it's absolute truth, and there's no way I can consciously communicate it. And it's as though part of myself is there looking at the probability that is soon to become a reality.
Right.
For me.
There's an interesting couple of words of how that's being framed. It's absolute because you're feeling it. It's a knowing, which is different than a belief. A knowing is from the soul. I mean, you feel a knowing, right? A belief is something, maybe I'll choose that, maybe I want to serve my purposes, I'll choose it, but I don't like it, I'll give it up, right? You don't do that with knowing. It comes to you. But then you have to look at knowing as well, especially when it comes to future recognition. The way time is structured and laid out like space, there are probabilities, which means there are various different time vectors of the same set of events that could go in a variety of different ways. The way that is the fulfillment of you in your Christos self, of fulfilling your heart potential, your divine blueprint, is called the heroic path. Then there's a whole bunch of steps of different ways that through your free will choice, you could end up in a different outcome than what the Christos potential was. So when you're starting to get knowings, you can be tapping into a part of yourself that's in one of those other probabilities as well. And it's absolutely true. That part is definitely living it. You know it. So you have to look even higher when you get those knowings. Because you may get knowings of doom. Okay? You may get pictures of, oh my God, I know a tidal wave's going to hit New York City. I just know it. I saw it. I felt it like I was there. In some probability, yes, it is happening. But that does not necessarily mean it's going to be the probability that you have to end up in right now. But if you get your mind focused on that one, you will put yourself there. This is why one of the things that we're teaching that is so exciting. There's a feeling of love that came out of this that was absolutely amazing. I was reminded that the work that we're doing right now, in planetary shields work and the round tables and healing work, that time is simultaneous, you know this, yeah. Well, there's a whole group in the future who their holy books and their stories of their ancients are all about the people that are on your planet right now. All of us. You know how we have built our cultural structures on the Bible and the Koran and all the holy books? These are the foundations of what is our culture now. There's a point in future time that exists right now where there are races of beings who are looking back at us as the heroes of their stories. That is the probability where this place was set free. I was taken into a space frequency-wise where I could feel the reality of being in that reality, that future time space, where it worked. Where we all ended up healing. This race, first of all, they're very tall. They're 12 feet tall. Well, because they're working on 144 chromosomes. Because they have the 12 strands up to their beginning. And they remember the climb. They remember what it was like to go from a race history of being a mutated form that was going on a finite track of evolution to the point where it was going to be evolved to destruction. And they're aware of one probability of this race from this point right here in time did do that. They were the ones that came out of the ones who cared enough, the small little group. They have two names for us. The groups of the immigrants that came in and woke up as many people as they could and said, excuse me, we're taking our planet back. We're taking our bodies back. We're leaving this time. You're not going to trap us here anymore to those who have done that. In a loving way. Don't raise us over at all. You simply raise the entire frequency. Try to imagine for me this future space. And imagine, here's the trick, imagine there's you, a future you, incarnate there right now. And that you knows there's you back here. It's just struggling to wake up with all the odds against it because the planetary prism of DNA against it. And that you is saying, come on, you can do it. Because that you is not going to be there if you don't do your thing. And the trick is that you out there will be free. Even if you don't become free here. Because you have free will choice. You will decide with where you put your thought patterns and your images, what probability you're going to line up with your experience. You could go on a path that goes back down into a spiral, like the evolution here. Or you can jump that train into the heroic probability to where you will merge and become that self in space. There is a huge aliveness of this. It's not a cold thing. Imagine that there's a bunch of people. There's a feeling to this when you start to realize there is a very specific probability. It's on a planet called Kathara, density 2, Earth, where there is a race of beings who have rekindled a once almost extinct angelic human race. They rekindled it to take over its original commission, which were the guardians of the universal stargates in its time matrix, such as humans were created originally to do. That's why we've been restaurants for so long. This was the rekindling, and this is the spark that set off that flame, where this time matrix got put back on its divine right order blueprint. There is a joy in that probability that reaches back and sings back to us in time. We're a part of that probability. We have a choice. We can realize, now we're identifying problems through here and how to fix them and try to work to fix them. But if you can realize the objective of this is this place, it's a space-time coordinate that's just as physical as here in its own characteristic of matter. This is the outcome we're aiming for. If you can imagine, ask your mentor to help. How do you imagine? What might this place be like? It is a free world. Nobody goes to jobs they don't like. There are no jobs nobody doesn't like to do. You don't put it in, you don't like to do it because you're free. They don't have money there. Money is an Illuminati creation. It's not a fair exchange of energy, as they try to make it is here. approach it that way and learn some things about energy exchange, the systems of money that are built here are not systems of money, actually. And the Drax got a spiritual idea, so they decided to play too. There are systems built on not competition, but communion. The planet, with each other, with interstellar races, and the source on a daily basis. Breathing is prayer. There. This is what we used to have, and it's what, in that future probability, we have again, because of what the groups of people on the planet right now chose to do. Kind of like, what was that movie, Terminator? They played those little games where a guy came from the future out to the past, and she had a baby to go and like become the one that was their hero in the future. You know? Same kind of concept, but it's very real because time is simultaneous. Just think about that when we're working with what we're working with, and try to find the energy signature of that location. We'll probably do some of that in roundtable work, where we're going to try to find the energy signature that exists in every one of us, our heroic probability. This is where our heart shields are coded to. If we fully activate our heart shields and bring in that frequency, that's going to be like a tractor beam that guides us to that probability. We have an ability to choose where we put our frequency, not just our thoughts, which are frequency, but our frequency, which we realize that what you'll see in the future is what you're creating right now with the mental set you have. You're creating a wave pattern with whatever's in your mind right now, whatever idea you have toward a thing, whatever image you have toward a thing. You don't deny the existence of things you don't want to do. Okay? Focus on where you want to be. Feel it alive in your body. Feel a joyful society. Feel yourself walk through a stargate. Wow, I didn't know it was real before I came to this workshop. And I found out you couldn't. I'm like, yeah, that, you know. And then all of a sudden, totally with my DNA, one opened up in my room, right? Create a scenario for yourself to capture the feeling of joy that you would get. Because there's a very distinct possibility you might be able to go through to that space-time tower and meet that self that's incarnate there. It would be a different body than you, but you recognize each other as family. Try to imagine that yourself. Now, okay, they're going to need getting ready to change the tape. We're going to go into technique 2. Go hard, seal, move out, yeah.
Okay, so I'm tracking you right.
When it comes down to this level, however, not all of us will have incarnational cycles or expressions where we were draconian or Anunnaki. Some of us may. Now, Anunnaki and draconians come into this time matrix in a different way. They do not come in with the D12 imprint, because they were created by a fallen angelic race, or D11, that reversed the natural fire letter sequences in his template for manifestation, which blocks out the ability to bring in D12 frequency. So they are therefore considered an anti-Christos race because they cannot, without assistance to regenerate the Christos spark, the D12 pattern, they cannot pull Christos frequency.
So indigo children aren't?
No. There's only one type of indigo children that are hybrid. They're indigo type 3s. They were part of an Anunnaki bioregenesis program where they were trying to get certain Anunnaki groups to enter the Emerald Covenant, where they would actually get their Christos spark back by indigo 3s have 2 souls. They have what's called an Orphean human soul, and they also have an Anunnaki soul, usually a Nephilim. And originally they were souls that wanted to go into the Emerald Covenant to get out of the Earth density cycles, and they were going to be good. What's happening since certain events have taken place, where the Anunnaki have decided they don't want to play the Emerald Covenant anymore. They're more interested in dominion. They're trying to go after the indigo children, the type 3s. They're trying to take control of the bodies, and they're trying to push out the human part of the soul. Okay, but as far as the other type of indigos, the ones I'm talking about most of the time, we came through from the Ascended Master imprint, down through the Rishi imprint, down to carry the Christos imprint. The 12-strand human being is a Christ being. It came through with the Christos spark in its template. And that little spark will be at the base of the spine and the tailbone, in the first 8 cells in the fetal pattern. So there are some things where you can even look, and you can scan even at D1 level in the red frequency bands, look at people's tailbones. You can tell if they have one or not. There's a little secret as far as identifying what someone's affiliated with. And it's a secret that's only going to work if you're mature enough not to judge people on it, not to judge them without love. If you ever see somebody that it becomes very apparent to you that they are born in an anti-Christos matrix, They came here in the first place because they were trying to get into the Emerald Covenant, because it was like a hospital.
We
Where
didn't
it
get
was.
Can you repeat that? There were what? We couldn't tell what you said.
Okay. So if you ever run into these, will become aware. You become aware. Even if they seem like a nice person on the surface, if you become aware, there are certain things you will learn about energy, where you will be able to tell their energy signatures with your higher sight if they are incarnated from one of the fallen angelic matrices that are anti-Christos because they don't have a D12 blueprint. If you encounter someone like that, it is an utterly inappropriate response to react with hatred or aversion or I know you. Alright. In fact, you do that enough, and you may find yourself incarnating that way just to see what it feels like.
What do you check the tailbone for?
In the tailbone, a person who was born originally on the human imprint, when they first enter this time matrix, will have a small pale silver spark of light in the first of the first stage cells at the tip of the tailbone that you can see if you use the red D1 frequency, scan the D1 frequency. You will look at just the end of the tailbone, and you'll see a few little like blobby things in there that are the cells. First, the first stage cells that form when the fetus is forming. And in one of those, you should be able to see a little glowing spark. What you'll see in a person who is born out of a fallen matrix is more of a cube-shaped black thing instead of a little circular spark of light. The people that carry this imprint have a distortion in the DNA template, where all the codes are running in reverse and the strands can't break, they can't activate like humans can. Our job is to help them originally. That's what humans were here for, but they kind of took over the place. Right now, we all look the same. It's good to know that you can use the word anti-Christ without using the word evil.
A lot of the people I work with have had their tailbones messed with through abduction, kind of blocked, whole.
Yeah. Usually indigos are the ones that if you're going to have abductions or anything like that. Indigos are very dangerous, to the Illuminati plan. Because indigos have the ability to run so much frequency, even a small collective of them, that they can completely override any of the mess that they're putting in the planetary grids. We had to wait till a stellar activation cycle to do it, though. To get control of the grid and put them back under protection so they're running the right way, we had to wait for the gates to open. Indigos are one of the biggest threats to the anti-Christos agenda. Because of that, now why they're a threat is because they have the ability to run huge amounts of frequency through the DNA template. To do that, it requires the Kundalini to activate, which are the currents of energy that run through the main vertical current of the body. You would progressively open the seals and the chakras would expand and run more and more frequency. The more frequency an indigo runs, the more problem they are for the anti-Christos agenda, because the more they can counteract it. So what often they will try to do is do things to the tailbone or the spine that will prevent activation of the Kundalini by messing with the seals, the sacral seals.
How do they track us? Like frequency? How do they just do it?
When indigos come into incarnation,
it's
like a flare going down.
So many of our
Everything in the local universe knows when an indigo baby incarnates.
Well, so many of our plane flights got messed with this trip. But a handful of us got our plane flights messed with this trip. I mean, how do they know? Do they really mess with us? Or how serious is this?
Indigos are known from the time they do fetal immigration. Usually the last person to find out about an indigo is an indigo. And a lot of indigos don't make it to get to the point where they ever awaken, because they try to go through, especially in the teens, when the Kundalini starts to activate with the natural hormonal activations that take place. Those hormonal activations take place in the teens because the Kundalini is activated. That's when they try to latch into their field. That's where the impulse they go to the drugs, yes, which are actually very easy to get into, where they try to manipulate and control them. This world is so much different than what they tell you in school and in church. And it's a time that if we care about being wise enough and intelligent enough to get it to go where we want it to in a positive, loving way, that we're mature enough to face that fact and say, okay, I wish it was as easy as it sounded like when they told me in church it was a certain way.
But they can't just kill us, right?
Yeah. You think we'd still be here if they would do that? Actually, they could. If they wanted to. They could kill anything down here. Because they're interfering with the natural connections between the higher spaces and the lower spaces. However, it would be self-defeating for them to kill indigos, because indigos are also the most valuable commodity to them on the planet, because indigos carry the DNA template codes to not only the planetary stargates, right in the DNA template, also to the universal stargates. What they want to do is get indigos running their currents in reverse, so they can open the gates and get them on the reverse matrix, which goes with their biology, so they can access them. So the fact that we're indigos is why we're hunted from the astral, but the fact that we're indigos is why we're protected as well. Because it would be self-defeating for them to do us harm until they have the gates open. Every indigo has different sets of codes in the DNA. This is part of the tribal shield stuff we'll talk about later. Because of that, you keep certain gates or certain grids. If you've been messed with, and you're running on a reverse matrix and don't know that this is where the Merkaba reversals come in, because the codes are running in reverse. You happen to drop your codes, you open your grid, that's when you become target. Because you're not useful anymore, you're not needed anymore. And this is what they're planning to do on a mass level. This is why we're doing the roundtables and things like that. There's a big program of takeover that we're in the middle of. And most people know, oh, couldn't be that bad. You know, you should check out the Astro and see what you think. Anyway, the Mahara Shield technologies are the beginning point. You can't run a roundtable without activating the Mahara Shield. It requires the D12 frequency.
Shauna, the reason I brought this up is I'm trying to figure this out because I don't really want to go around projecting there's bad guys over there and there's good guys over here. And if we have 1,728 cells, what I'm trying to determine is this a particular grail line that is an indigo child? Does that mean that I'm not a dark avatar and another? Is that what you say?
This means that you will have a resume incarnationally that is the enemy of most. And that when everybody's digging up their bad karma, you will find that you hardly have any. How did they do that? Am I missing something? Was it a really bad, horrible person where I'm not letting myself find it? No. You'll find out that there is a gray line in this time matrix. It came down from the Azurite races, the Eoni, beyond the time matrix. They're called the Eoni. They came down through the Brenno Rishi. They came down through the Elohai Elohim. They came down through the Azurites. They came down through the Orphim, and they created the Tauriniciums, which created the humans. This is our lineage. We're going to get into that in the other workshop a bit more. So there is a gray line. It doesn't mean we're supposed to walk around, excuse me, I'm an indigo, I get it, you know, it's not about that. Indigos are supposed to recognize the fact that we're all faces of the one. And the ones that have forgotten that are getting themselves really messed up, and that hurts all of us, including them, especially them. So it's not, these are the bad guys, we're against them. They tend to position themselves against us. Well, we stand there with a loving heart, and if you don't put your astral field thing up, they will harm you. So if you're going to help them, you can't let them kill the doctor first. You know? These races that we call follow need help. Alright? They've lost touch with their connection to source. They've lost touch with their ability to feel where they can feel empathy or compassion anymore. So they can do horrible things without any remorse at all. They're not evil, they're lost. We can help them, we can set an example, but we can't do it if we let them destroy us. Okay, this is more stuff that goes in with the next workshop. Okay. We're going to get to the Mahara Seal technique. Mahara Seal in the liquid light cleanse. Now, the Mahara Seal technique is a technique that simply is going to run frequency through the body in a way that stimulates into activation the Mahara Shield template below your feet. Remember we saw the shields diagram, which was, what page was that on? We don't need it. In fact, we can use the one on page right about 136. Has the Mahara Shield in itself. Okay. Is this one? Yeah, all right, I know. This, down here, it's actually much bigger. It extends out very far, and the more you run frequency through it, it can go for miles when you get it really working. This is the Mahara Shield. It is a scalar array template then that activates when you send certain mathematical coordinates down into the 13th chakra to open a connection between your Kathara grid that's inside your body and the Kathara grid that's running frequency through the Earth's grids and the stargates. Right? With the Mahara Shield, it's a simple way of bringing the current up. You learn how to send the Hierophant down to activate it. Oh, when we do this, will you read something? When we do this, we're going to use 12.3 dimensional. They're upping. We started early on, like about 2 years ago, with the Hierophant symbol as a 6-pointed star, that had lower frequency to get, the grids weren't as activated as they were now. People can handle higher frequency now. So we're going to start with a 12-pointed 3-dimensional star. I'd like to add that to the bar too. I just got that recently. By running this frequency down into the Earth's core, it will stimulate the activation of certain frequencies within the planetary shields that will allow you to pull and drop pale silver Mahara current out from the planetary shields. This will move up through your body, and it will project up and hook out into your 14th chakra. Now, first it will start as a shield below your feet. And as you bring energy into it, push more energy into that shield, it'll hit a critical mass level where there's enough frequency that you broaden it from D12 frequency from the grids that it will make that shield pop. And instead of hanging out down there just like that, it will fold up and become a pillar of light in the field. That's called a Mahara seal, where it literally seals your astral body and the auric fields levels with this pillar of light. It actually extends out. It's like pillars within pillars within pillars. There'll be a pillar right around you here, just the one we're going to be working with visualizing. But at the same time, because it's a D12 activation, all the way out in your field, it's creating as if you were within pillars within pillars within pillars, and there's your body inside of all these pillars of light. Now, for the body to sustain a Mahara seal, you have to have full 12-strand activation. In fact, if you had full 12-strand activation, you wouldn't have to move a Mahara seal manually because you would simply have one. That is what happens in your biofield when you have full 12-strand activation. You have inborn protection and immunity to anything. All right, and the ability to manifest yourself, turn into a pillar of light, and go someplace else if you want to. In the meantime, while we don't have 12-strand activation, we can do, they call it syncopated sub-strand activation, which means you can activate certain portions of the D12 sub-frequency bands in each of the lower DNA strand templates, that much the body can hold. You can do it enough to bring this up, to bring the pillar up, to bring the heart shield up, activate the shield below your feet, to bring the pillar up. But it will last for certain periods of time. At this point, they're amplifying. The grids are amplifying. It used to not last this long. We'd have to do it like every day. You get about a week out of it, they're telling me now. And this is something that changed recently because the grids are amplifying, the planetary grids are amplifying. Now, when we do a Mahara seal, you'll get a week's protection out of it, where before, we had to run them every day. So eventually, the plant will help us with this process where it makes it very easy. Now, what this does is several things. First of all, anything that tries to come into your energy field this way, if it is disharmonic, it will reorder itself before it hits you. It'll still move through you into your life. It's not blocking things out of your life. It's simply if there's any disharmonic pattern that comes in, like it's a morphogenetic signature for a virus, let's say, and your higher self has no reason to have you have a virus for the experience of learning that it might give you, it will simply transmute it into a natural harmonic pattern. It will restore whatever hits it to its Christos potential. It'll trigger its, whatever the it is coming at you. It'll trigger part of its own divine blueprint, its own Christos template. This is something that the fallen angelic races don't want to do at all. So when they see one of these come, they back off. Because if they try to move through it, it will start to reverse their own polarity. If they're heck bent on staying affiliated with the Antichristos agenda, they know that despite themselves getting attached to something that has some hard seal, even if they can get a little bit attached to it, it will start turning them around. So they avoid it. They also resent it, because you can't get into that person's astral field. This will block psychotronic transmissions that come in while it's up. Now, we have the gift. Believe me, it's a gift. There's a lot of steps to this. So it used to be like, oh my God, I have to do this every day. You can do the quick version every day, where you throw the thing down, bring it back up, pull the field up. That strengthens your field. It's important to strengthen the field. Because we'll activate the Mahara seal. And even if the grids are holding for a time, planetary grids, it will still be indivisible. Because your DNA still doesn't hold that level of activation. It'll trigger it temporarily, but then it'll go back down to its normal, unless you put that electricity back into it again, which will bring it back up. So it's important to have enough, if you care about really accelerating your own development, care about protection and keeping yourself safe, care about integrating your own Christos self. This is a key technique, and if you care about the right one, it is the key technique. The first thing that you need to learn to be able to run the Maharata, which is the D12 curve. Running the Maharata has extremely huge applications. This is the beginning of learning how to do that. Now, what we're going to do in this particular technique is what we call the Kathara grid in the body. It's the next, I think I we're running the heart seal. What it's going to do, the part is called liquid light cleanse. Once we get it activated, activate the shield, and then we're going to run it. Use the breath to run it up to central vertical current. You can also use it, if you remember where the centers are, to run it through each of the centers. Now, this will begin the process of core template restoration. This is the reset button. Remember, the Kathara template, the 12-tree grid, is the first level of the core of your manifestation template, of your DNA template. All those things are built on it. This is the core. You start running the D12 frequency through there, and it is going to progressively, but gently, not to the point where it's going to override everything and you're going to explode because too much frequency was released at once. It will gently start to clear any distortions in the whole grid. To the liquid light cleanse, like the greatest shower you can ever take, it's inside shower. And you can run the frequency up and progressively take off layers of what would be your karmic imprint. Okay? If you didn't do these things, these are the events, the life scenarios that you would be walking through as they start to bleed through from the other time vectors. They would be opening in the DNA as the planetary grids open to activate. It's the beginning process, and it's a process that can be done on other people as well. So at some point, I think, let me see what the schedule is today, if it's either today or tomorrow morning. We're going to do a client session, but first we're going to run it with ourselves so we know what this feels like, this process. When you do it with a client session, it's done a little different, because you're the one that activates it in the universe and then transmit it into the client. It's not enough. Some people will come to you because they don't want to bother doing 26 steps or learn anything about it, but they want you to fix them. That's a start. At least you can give them with the original reset. They're being guided there by their own Christos level to get that kind of thing. See, you'll never be a healer from this program. You'll be a healing facilitator. You're facilitating the only person who can heal anybody, which is the self, their own self. That's one of the things important about this program that we stress. We don't want any egomaniacs running around out there saying, we have the best healing program on the planet, which we do. I'm a great healer. I can heal anything. I've heard people do this, where I'll just touch them to get better. They get an ego this big. Nobody that's come to our classes do that. Because I make it very clear that you will never heal anybody but yourself. Yet you can facilitate and assist other selves to heal themselves. That's what it means to be a Kathara healer. The person is always the one with the power. You have your healing power, they have theirs. So it's important to understand that. So we're going to do this technique in a couple of minutes. And there's also something that before, what time do we have to do it? 5:30? 5:45? Is that what we're leaving for dinner?
We'll probably break about 4:30.
For coffee? For coffee? Oh, okay, we can. All right.
20 minutes.
20 minutes is long.
Yeah,
And then we're going to get into something called the Kathara points. The Kathara points are areas on the body that you can rub and stimulate with direct physical touch that will work with the energy that you've generated in the Kathara grid and either send it deep into the template for recoding, or you can bring it up into the outer levels of the field, into the chakras, into the meridian lines, to regenerate, or to revitalize. One is for regeneration, one's for revitalization. To regenerate, which means restart, you would take, there's a certain set of points to rub on the body. You would take the energy down deep into the Kathara grid. Then there's a set of points that would do the opposite. Shut the Kathara grid down enough where it's not going to suck any frequency that you're pulling, and it's going to push it up into the chakras, the extratonal lines, the meridian lines. This is the stuff, the points you use. If you're having a really fatigued day and you're really tired, you can really use a boost. The revitalization points that send the energy. Once you activate the heart current, bring it up. What you're going to do is you're going to take it deep down for recoding or template recoding. Or right now it's more important to you to just get a little energy. Then you would use these points and rub them, and it will shut down these, or it will close them up like little windows, and it will kick the energy up into the outer levels. of the anatomy, which would be the chakra system and the seals and the oxytonal lines, making it more available to you immediately. That creates more immediate results of running the frequency. Where when you run deep into the template, it creates more permanent results. Okay, but it takes longer to see them. Okay, I think we can try this. Alright, you ready to do this now? Okay, and can we do it? Can we do them a little bit slow? Sure. Okay, you got it. You got the other one? Yes. You don't need it? Yeah. Okay, you might want to make a note on page 132 where technique 2 starts in your book, since we just got permission to do this with a group. You can use a 12-point three-dimensional star as your hierophant. All right? Yeah. What helps is don't worry about the star so much. Picture a ball as if it was a styrofoam ball with a little ice cream cone stuck on it. Right? You have 12 ice cream cones stuck on this ball. And when you get to 144, you can't even see how many ice cream cones you have. But you're setting the grid for it. Okay? Yeah. So right now we just got permission the first time in the Kathara, the classes that are being released to everybody, that we can use the 12-point and three-dimensional star as the hierophant. Okay. If you're working with this energy and you get too jittery, go back to the 6 for a while, the 6 flat. Okay, that means you're pulling a little too much frequency. It will shut down in your body, which make it a little jittery. It's not going to like overwhelm you and make you sick or anything. It will shut itself off. But if you're working with any technique, you find you're bringing in too much energy. If you're using a 12-pointed star, three-dimensional, kick it back a little. Go to a two-dimensional 12-pointed star. You'll learn to control how much frequency you're bringing in. This is a mathematical program. It's telling you how much frequency am I asking to be brought in. I'm bringing in a higher frequency, D12 subharmonics. Do I want the little amount of them that comes with the 6 template, or do I want more? Or is something threatening my life right now and I want as much frequency as my body can possibly hold? Let me use 144.3 dimensional star and see what we do with that. Okay? You can try that if you're in danger. If you or something is after you, or like, even if you're walking down the street and somebody tries to mug you, you can temporarily pull 144 point, which is this whole set of frequency subharmonics from 1 to 12. It will temporarily keep you in activation long enough to probably move them out of your field if anybody's trying to hurt you. I had that happen once and I didn't know what it did until it explained to me. Where somebody tried to attack me. I was quite a bit younger, I was in my teens. Somebody tried to attack me, and this energy all of a sudden whooshed through my heart chakra and literally pushed them up against the wall. And he shifted immediately and said, "Oh my God, I'm sorry. Oh dear, I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry. Gentlemen, right?" Wow. I mean, this was a person who had cornered me in the ladies' room. A male would corner me in the ladies' room during like that movie theater when everybody else was in the movie, and now they're going to attack me. It shifted them immediately. It didn't hurt them. Blew my mind. I didn't know what had happened at the time. But my higher parts triggered activation of the heart seal. It wasn't somebody rescued me. It was we activated our frequency. This stuff can work really well. So, okay. Anyway, I'm going to turn this over. Yeah. I'm going to get this over.
I'm a little confused because we've been working with 24-point stars just recently.
Okay. Not everybody in this group has. You've been working with that from Hawaii, and you've been working with it possibly from New York, and I'm going to introduce to Hawaii. But there are people here who haven't been introduced to this yet. We don't want to start on 24. Okay? Okay. So we start with, if you've been using higher, you've been to other workshops before, you've been working with these. You know your comfort zone. If you're on 24, you're increasing your own rate. But I'm not going to be irresponsible enough to tell people who are just starting to use this technique. But I'm 144 right now. You want to build the body's tolerance. And the worst thing that will happen is nothing. If somebody tries to use a higher coding that's too high and tries to bring that into the body, if the body can't sustain any of that, it will just shut down and it won't pull any of the current. So you get like the opposite. What you're looking for? But if you've been working with it, you'll be self-regulated. You'll start to get a feel. Okay, I've been using 12 at 3-dimensional. Let's go to 24. Go up in increments. Usually go up in increments of 12, 24, 36, etc. And when you get into major grid work, you will even go beyond 144 point. Okay, that's when you get into major grid rate type stuff. But that was I will forget that now. In fact, can you turn the lights out for this? Because I think it's helpful to have.
Nice.
Oh, sorry, I just pushed a second.
with the embodied Kathara grid, just remember that the first Kathara sphere is at Earth's core. The 12th Kathara sphere is 6 inches above the head, the position of the 10th chakra, 6 inches above the head. So this is the embodied, this is the internal Templar here, the embodied Kathara grid. 12 inches beneath the feet is where the personal Maharaj shield is. Okay? Planetary Maharaj shield, you'll see in the meditation exercise, it extends out from Earth's core. This is about the closest, this medallion is electroplated in platinum. This is about the closest I get to pale silver. Do you have anything to add with that? I mean, as far as the visualizing the pale silver? I use this as a guide a lot.
It's often referred to as the platinum ray.
Yeah.
But there's a personal slant to it.
Okay.
What's best to do is ask your own inner self to give you the color pale silver to use. I want my heart current now. What is the best color for me? It will be a version of pale silver, but how bright or how dark, or maybe it has some colors floating through it, will depend on the person. It would be best to do it that way.
Okay, we'll be using the 12-pointed star, 3-dimensional 12-pointed star in pale silver light. Okay. So, close your eyes and visualize the image of a 12-pointed star made of pale silver light, stationed at the 6th chakra on the inside of your foreheads. And if you cannot yet generate your visualizations, there's a challenge. Just simply imagine that the symbol is there. This 12-pointed 3-dimensional star, pale silver light, we're going to refer to as the Hierophant. Again, we'll refer to this 12-pointed star, 3-dimensional 12-pointed star of pale silver light as the Hierophant. It is a scalar wave template, a waveguide, that governs the release of phase lock on the Maharaj shield. So visualize or imagine the Hierophant symbol clearly in mind. And then shift attention to the sound of your breath. And take several slow, deep breaths. With an inhale breath, pull the Hierophant from the inside of the forehead to the center of the brain at the pineal gland. And with the exhale, use the force of the exhale breath to forcefully push the Hierophant down from its position at the pineal through the central body current and into the Earth's core. If you can't do it with one exhale, exhale as far as you can. Take another breath and then exhale it down the rest of the way, all the way down to Earth's core. And take a few more slow breaths while visualizing or imagining the Hierophant symbol in the center of the Earth's core. Imagine now that the Hierophant, this 12-pointed star of pale silver light, begins to spin in the Earth's core. And spin the Hierophant progressively faster and faster until it takes on a life of its own. It suddenly pops and expands to form a pale silver sphere of light spinning in the Earth's core. So now there is a pale silver sphere of light spinning in the Earth's core. Continue to observe the pale silver Hierophant sphere spinning in the Earth's core. And then visualize or imagine that a huge horizontal pale silver spinning disk emerges out from the Hierophant sphere, forming a massive pale silver disk of light spinning throughout the Earth and extending outward into the atmosphere as a rotating horizontal plane, expanding from the Earth's core out through the Earth and into the atmosphere as a rotating plane of pale silver light. This is the planetary's Maharaj shield. And while remaining aware of the planetary Maharaj shield spinning on a horizontal plane throughout the Earth's body, return the focus of your attention now to the spinning silver Hierophant sphere rotating at Earth's core. We'll now use the Hierophant sphere to activate our personal Maharaj shields and release the 12th dimensional pillar of light within our bioenergetic fields. Take several slow, deep breaths while visualizing or imagining the Hierophant sphere spinning in Earth's core. Pale silver sphere spinning at Earth's core. On your next inhale breath, inhale, and as you inhale, draw the Hierophant sphere up from the Earth's core with the inhale breath, forming a pale silver cord about 6 inches thick, trailing behind the Hierophant as it rises to the 12th chakra, 6 inches beneath the feet. One end of the silver cord remains rooted in Earth's core, and the other end is attached to the Hierophant sphere and follows its movement upwards. So with the next few inhale breaths, inhale the Hierophant sphere as far as you can, and then take an exhale breath. You can stop it there and inhale the rest of the way up to the 12th chakra, 6 inches beneath the feet, trailing a 6-inch thick silver cord behind it, rooted in Earth's core. Visualize the 12th chakra as a small transparent disc about 3 inches in diameter, positioned 6 inches below the feet. And stop the movement of the Hierophant in the center of the 12th chakra. Imagine the sphere beginning to spin and visualize the diameter of the 12th chakra disc expanding to about 6 inches in diameter, the same diameter as the pale silver cord, as the Hierophant continues to spin at its center. And take a few slow, deep breaths as the Hierophant sphere spins in the center of the 12th chakra, 6 inches below the feet. On your next inhale breath, draw the Hierophant sphere up from the 12th chakra through the central body current and up to the 14th chakra, 36 inches above the head. And as the Hierophant sphere rises, visualize the 6-inch thick silver cord drawing up through the 12th chakra and farther up through the central body current, following the path of the Hierophant sphere up to the 14th chakra, 36 inches above the head. And visualize the silver cord as a long, thick, pale silver cord of light running from the Earth's core through your body and out the top of your head, connecting to the 14th chakra, 36 inches above the head. And take several deep, slow breaths while imagining that you can feel the sensation of this massive current of clear, pure energy, pale silver Maharaj frequency running through the center of your body. Massive current of clear, pure energy running through the center of your body. Take an inhale breath. And on the exhale breath, push the spinning Hierophant sphere down through the central body current, while leaving the top end of the pale silver cord attached to the 14th chakra, 36 inches above the head. And move the Hierophant down through the 12th chakra, 6 inches below the feet, and stop the Hierophant 6 inches below the 12th chakra, a position about 12 inches below the feet. This is the location of the Maharaj shield, our personal Maharaj shield within the morphogenetic field of the body, about 12 inches below the feet. Breathe slowly and visualize the Hierophant sphere spinning progressively faster, 12 inches beneath the feet. Start spinning gently first and then progressively faster and faster and faster, 12 inches beneath the feet, until the Hierophant takes on a life of its own, suddenly pops and expands to form an expanding horizontal disc of pale silver light, spinning 12 inches beneath the feet. And feel this disc, observe and feel this disc as a circular platform 3 yards in diameter below your feet. This is the personal Maharaj shields. Call to mind now the image of the massive horizontal disc of pale silver light spinning throughout the Earth's body, the planetary Maharaj shield. And imagine the sensation of the large spinning pale silver platform disc spinning 12 inches beneath your feet, your personal Maharaj shield. And breathe slowly and deeply while visualizing or imagining a massive rush of pure, cool, pale silver energy running from the planetary Maharaj shield up through the pale silver cord and into your personal Maharaj shield, 12 inches beneath your feet. Take several breaths and pull pale silver Maharaj frequency from the planetary's Maharaj shield at Earth's core up through the pale silver cord and breathe it into your personal Maharaj shield, 12 inches beneath your feet, filling it with pale silver light. The inhale breaths pull Maharaj frequency, pale silver light from the planetary's Maharaj shield at Earth's core up through the pale silver cord and into your personal Maharaj shields, 12 inches beneath your feet, filling your personal Maharaj shields with pale silver light. Continue breathing as this energy runs, filling your Maharaj shield to its energy-holding capacity. And when your Maharaj shield has received as much pale silver energy as it can hold, imagine it takes on a life of its own and suddenly pops and expands upward into an oscillating pale silver pillar of light surrounding and permeating the body. A tube of light extending beyond the body about 18 inches and running from the Earth's core up to the 14th chakra, 36 inches above the head. And feel the reality of your body encased in this cool, refreshing, pale silver pillar of oscillating light. Oscillating pale silver pillar of light surrounds and permeates the body. The tube of light extending beyond the body about 18 inches, running from the Earth's core to the 14th chakra, 36 inches above the head. And take a few slow, deep breaths and imagine the energy from the pillar. Inhale the energy from the Maharaj seal pillar into all of your body cells. And as you do this, imagine the energy, this pale silver Maharaj frequency from the pillar emanating through all of your body cells. Imagine all of your body cells just bathed in Maharaj frequency, pale silver light, the pale silver light of the Christos. Inhaling, pulling energy from the pillar into every body cell. Imagine every body cell bathed in immersed and translucent Maharaj frequency, pale oscillating, pale silver light, the pale silver light of the Christos. Imagine this energy from the pillar emanating through all of your body cells. Your bioenergetic field is now sealed, and remind yourself that now my bioenergetic field is now sealed with a protective barrier of 11th and 12th dimensional frequency, the Maharaj seal. as this pale silver pillar of light oscillates around you, place your attention for a moment at the 13th chakra at Earth's core, and inhale a final spark of pale silver light from the Earth's core, drawing the spark up through the pale silver cord and into the main vertical channel of the Kathara grid and into the center of the 4th heart chakra. And breathe slowly and easily while visualizing energy from the silver spark radiating throughout the embodied 12-tree Kathara grid, filling it with pale silver light. And when your Kathara grids have reached their energy holding capacity, the 12th chakra automatically contracts to decrease the flow of silver light from the Earth's core. And as the 12th chakra contracts, the planetary Mahart shield stops spinning and transmitting energy through the silver cord, returning the silver cord to its dormant state. This Mahart sealed pale silver pillar of light will remain in our bioenergetic fields for upwards of a week, possibly more. Over extended periods of frequent, consistent, daily practice of this process, this Mahart seal will self-sustain the bioenergetic field for much longer periods of time. So while continuing to remain aware, this oscillating pillar of pale silver light surrounding and permeating the body, this Mahart seal pillar, allow the present moment focus of your conscious attention and awareness, when it feels comfortable for you to do so, back to the room, and gently open your eyes. This has been the Mahart seal and the liquid light cleanse.